The dust hung thick in the air that September morning in Silver Creek, Texas, as Jack Coleman walked down Main Street with his son, 8-year-old Danny, at his side. At 34, Jack had the weathered look of a man who'd worked hard for everything he had: a small ranch outside town, a modest herd of cattle, and the responsibility of raising his boy alone since his wife, Sarah, had died 4 years back. Danny tugged at his father's sleeve, pointing toward the crowd gathered near the general store. "Pa, what's happening over there?" Jack's jaw tightened as he saw what was unfolding. A public auction, but not for livestock or land. A woman stood on a wooden platform, her face covered by a gray headscarf, her head bowed in shame. Beside her stood another woman, older, with a hard expression and calculating eyes, calling out to the crowd. 18 years old, strong, can cook and clean, knows her way around a household, the stepmother announced, her voice carrying across the street. "She'll make someone a good servant. Starting bid is $50. Jack felt his stomach turn. He'd heard of such things happening in desperate times, but seeing it with his own eyes was different. The girl on the platform, barely, more than a child, stood with her arms wrapped around herself, trembling despite the warm sun. "Pa, why is that lady selling that girl?" Danny asked, his young voice confused and troubled. Jack put his hand on his son's shoulder. "Because some people forget what's right when they're thinking about money. Son." The bidding started slowly. A few rough-looking men called out numbers, their intentions clear in their leering expressions. Jack watched the girl flinch with each bid, saw her stepmother's satisfied smile as the price climbed. Something stirred in Jack's chest: anger, compassion, maybe the memory of his own Sarah and how she'd always taught him to stand up when others couldn't. He thought of Danny, growing up in a world where this was considered acceptable. $100, Jack heard himself call out, his voice firm and clear. The crowd turned to look at him. The stepmother's eyes gleamed with greed. 100. "Do I hear 150? One of the rough men spat tobacco juice and waved his hand dismissively, walking away. The others followed suit. Nobody wanted to bid against Jack Coleman. He was respected in these parts, known for his fairness and his temper when crossed. "Sold to Mr. Coleman for $100, the stepmother announced triumphantly. As Jack approached the platform to complete the transaction, counting out bills that represented a month's profit, he saw the girl raise her head slightly. Her face was young, sun-browned, with dark braided hair visible beneath the headscarf. Her eyes, deep brown and filled with fear, met his for just a moment before darting away. "Her name's Rebecca," the stepmother said, snatching the money from Jack's hand. "She's healthy, obedient. You won't have any trouble with her." The woman spoke as if the girl weren't, standing right there, as if she were livestock being delivered. Jack ignored the stepmother and addressed Rebecca directly. "Come on, miss. Let's go home." The ride back to the ranch was quiet. Rebecca sat in the back of the wagon, keeping her distance from Jack and Danny. She stared at her hands, which were rough and work-worn despite her youth. Danny, with the innocent kindness of childhood, kept turning around to look at her. "Do you like horses?" he asked. "We have 3 horses. Mine is named Buttercup, even though Pa says that's a silly name for a horse." Rebecca's lips twitched slightly, almost a smile, but she didn't respond. When they reached the ranch house, simple but well-maintained wooden structure, Jack helped Rebecca down from the wagon. She immediately stepped back, maintaining distance, her eyes wary. "Danny, go feed the chickens," Jack said gently. Once his son had run off, Jack turned to Rebecca. "I want you to understand something. I didn't buy you to be a servant or anything else. What your stepmother did was wrong, and I couldn't stand by and watch it happen." Rebecca's eyes widened slightly, but she remained silent. "You're free to leave anytime you want," Jack continued. "But if you'd like to stay, you can. I could use some help around the house, cooking, cleaning, looking after Danny when I'm working the ranch. I'll pay you fair wages, give you your own room, and treat you with respect. That's all I'm offering. Nothing more." For the first time, Rebecca spoke. Her voice was soft, hesitant. "Why would you do that?" "You paid good money for me." "Because it was the right thing to do," Jack said simply. "And because that money was just paper and coins. Your dignity, your freedom, those things matter more. Tears welled up in Rebecca's eyes, but she blinked them back. I don't have anywhere else to go. My father died 2 years ago, and my stepmother, she said I was a burden. That selling me was the best thing for everyone. Jack felt anger rise again, but he kept his voice calm. You're not a burden. You're a person, and you deserve to be treated like one. So what do you say? Will you stay and help us out? Rebecca nodded slowly. Yes, sir. Thank you. The first weeks were careful ones. Rebecca kept to herself, doing her work quietly and efficiently. She was indeed a good cook, and the house had never been cleaner. But she moved like a shadow, always trying to be invisible, always expecting harsh words or worse. Danny, with his open heart, slowly drew her out. He'd chatter to her while she cooked, tell her about his day, ask her questions about everything under the sun. Jack watched as, bit by bit, Rebecca began to smile more, to respond with more than yes or no. One evening, about a month after she'd arrived, Jack came in from the fields to find Rebecca teaching Danny to read from one of the few books they owned. Her voice was animated, patient, and Danny was actually sitting still, a rare accomplishment. You're good with him, Jack said, and Rebecca jumped, not having heard him enter. I hope it's all right, she said quickly. He asked me to help him with his letters. It's more than all right. It's wonderful. Jack smiled. I'm not much good at teaching. Never had much schooling myself. My mother taught me before she died, Rebecca said softly. She said reading was a way to travel anywhere, even if you never left home. She sounds like she was a wise woman. She was. Rebecca's expression grew distant, sad. She would have been ashamed of what my stepmother did. Your stepmother should be ashamed, Jack said firmly. You did nothing wrong. As autumn turned to winter, something shifted in the household. It became less like an employer and employee arrangement and more like a family. Rebecca laughed more, spoke her mind occasionally, and even argued with Jack about whether to plant extra beans in the spring garden. Jack found himself noticing things about her, the way she hummed while cooking, the patience she showed with Danny, the intelligence in her eyes when she listened to the news from town. She was no longer just the frightened girl on that auction platform. She was becoming herself, whoever that was meant to be, but Jack kept his distance emotionally. She was 18 and he was 34. She'd been through trauma, was still healing. The last thing she needed was him developing inappropriate feelings, taking advantage of the power imbalance between them. What Jack didn't realize was that Rebecca was facing her own confusion. She'd been grateful to him at first, then comfortable around him, then something more. She found herself watching for him to come in from the fields. Noticed the kindness in his weathered face, the gentleness in his strong hands when he ruffled Danny's hair. She told herself it was just gratitude. But gratitude didn't explain the flutter in her chest when he smiled at her, or the way her heart sank when he maintained such careful, respectful distance. The turning point came one snowy January evening. Jack had been mending fence in the cold all day and came in late, his hands nearly frozen. Rebecca immediately heated water and brought him a basin, insisting he warm his hands before frostbite set in. As she gently helped him work sensation back into his fingers, their eyes met. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them, a recognition, an acknowledgement of feelings that had been growing for months. Jack pulled his hands back gently. Rebecca, this isn't right. What isn't right? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. You're young. You've been through something terrible. I'm your employer. There's too much. I have too much power in this situation. I won't take advantage of that. Rebecca sat back, her expression a mix of hurt and frustration. Is that really what you think? That I'm some helpless child who doesn't know her own mind? No, I'm 18, Mr. Coleman. I've buried both parents, been sold like cattle, and rebuilt my life from nothing. I know my own mind. Her voice grew stronger, more confident. And I know how I feel about you. Jack's heart raced, but he forced himself to think clearly. Rebecca, feelings born from gratitude can seem like something else. You're grateful because I helped you, and that's natural, but don't tell me what I feel, she interrupted, her eyes flashing. Yes, I was grateful. I still am, but that's not what this is. I've watched you for months now. I've seen how you treat your son, how you treat your neighbors, how you treat me. You're a good man, Jack Coleman, a kind man, and somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you. The words hung in the air between them. Jack's carefully constructed walls crumbled as he looked at her. No longer the frightened girl on the platform, but a strong, intelligent young woman who knew her own heart. "I'm 16 years older than you," he said quietly. "I know. People will talk. Let them. You could have any young man in the county." Rebecca smiled slightly. "I don't want any young man in the county. I want you, but only if you want me to. And if you don't, if you only see me as someone to be protected or pitied, then I need to know that. I'll stay and work for you as we agreed, but I need to know where I stand." Jack stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the snow-covered fields. He thought of Sarah, his first love, and knew she would have liked Rebecca. Would have told him not to be a fool, not to let fear keep him from happiness. He turned back to Rebecca. "I've been lying to myself for months, telling myself I was just being protective, just being kind. But the truth is, I've fallen in love with you too, and it terrifies me because I don't want to hurt you. Don't want to take advantage, don't want to—" Rebecca stood up and crossed the room, taking his work-roughened hands in hers. "Then don't. Don't hurt me, don't take advantage. Just love me. Let me love you. Let us see where this goes, honestly and openly." Jack looked down at their joined hands, then at her face, so young but so strong. "It won't be easy. People will judge. I've been judged before. I survived it. Danny will have questions. Danny already asked me if I was going to be his new mama," Rebecca said with a soft laugh. "I told him we'd have to see, but he seemed pretty set on the idea." Jack couldn't help but smile. Then slowly, carefully, giving her every chance to pull away, he leaned down and kissed her forehead. "We'll take it slow. We'll do this right." "We'll take it at whatever pace feels right," Rebecca corrected gently. "But yes, we'll do it right." The months that followed were both challenging and beautiful. Jack and Rebecca courted properly, even though she lived under his roof. He took her to church socials, walked with her in the evening, talked with her about everything from ranch business to dreams for the future. There were whispers, of course. Some people remembered the auction, made assumptions about their relationship. But more people saw what was obvious. Two people who respected and loved each other, building a life together. In May, when the wildflowers bloomed across the Texas hills, Jack proposed properly, on one knee in the garden Rebecca had planted. She said yes through happy tears, and Danny whooped with joy, already planning their life as a proper family. They married in June, a simple ceremony at the church with most of the town in attendance. Jack was 35, Rebecca was 19, and no one who saw them together could doubt the genuine love between them. Years later, when people asked about their unusual beginning, Jack would smile and say, "I bought her freedom, but she won my heart. Best investment I ever made." Rebecca would shake her head and correct him. "He gave me back my life. What I gave him in return was just fair trade." But the truth, which they both knew, was simpler than that. In a moment of crisis, one man had chosen kindness over indifference. And from that choice, from that willingness to see another person's humanity, had grown something neither of them expected. A love built on respect, honesty, and the daily choice to honor each other's dignity. Danny grew up with a mother's love again, the ranch prospered, and the Coleman family became known not for their unusual beginning, but for the example they set of compassion, of looking beyond circumstances, of recognizing that sometimes the most precious things in life come to us in unexpected ways. And on quiet evenings, when the work was done and they sat together watching the sunset paint the Texas sky, Jack would take Rebecca's hand and marvel at how a moment of simple decency had changed everything. How standing up when others stood by had brought him not just satisfaction, but joy. Love, they learned, doesn't always follow the rules. It doesn't care about age gaps or unconventional beginnings. It simply asks that we be brave enough to see each other truly, to honor each other's worth, and to build something genuine from even the most difficult circumstances. And that's exactly what they did.